hi everybody. I'm Andrew Dalton with the Adams County Historical Society, and we're in the lobby of Beyond the Battle Museum here in Gettysburg, and we wanted to point out for those of you who are coming to see the museum, you might have noticed a change in our front lobby in the past 6 months, and that is this incredible diorama portraying the fighting on Culp's Hill on the Gettysburg battlefield. And we actually have one of our board members here, Cliff Bream, who is not only a board member, a supporter of ours, but he actually created this incredible diorama. So, Cliff, would you mind telling us how you got the idea for this and what it was like to put this together? Because it's really just remarkable, and we have so many visitors coming over to see it.
Yeah, well, my family goes back 8 generations, and Gettysburg makes us one of the oldest families in Gettysburg. And ever since I was a little kid, 7, 8 years old, while I never lived in Gettysburg, all my relatives were here, would come up every weekend when I was a kid from D.C. and fell in love with the battlefield, got into knowing segments of the battlefield over time. One segment of the battlefield that, quite frankly, disturbed me a little bit because it was so overgrown, it could not be interpreted, was Culp's Hill. And so, maybe 4 years ago, I approached the National Park Service and said, my wife and I would like to fund a renovation of Culp's Hill. It was so overgrown, and we would like to include signage, we'd like to include trails. They acquiesced, they agreed to it. And so in doing that, I said, I got this idea that I might create a diorama of one of the most intense areas on the fighting on Culp's Hill. And I had already started to make little miniature soldiers for years, but I went out to Culp's Hill, the area around Forbes Rock in Culp's Hill, very famous part of the Culp's Hill fighting. And so I used that as almost a centerpiece of the diorama that I would build. And what we have here is an element of the Confederates, one of their attacks on the Union lines at Culp's Hill, and tried to make it as accurate as possible. Went out and did measurements between rocks, and I think we got it pretty accurate.
I can attest to that because I remember seeing flags that you put out to get the measurements down.
Yes,
so
sir.
It's just meticulous. The level of detail is meticulous down to the trees and the rocks and the fog in the air from the smoke from the rifle fire. It's just unbelievable. How long did it take you, Cliff, to do the actual diorama portion?
The diorama itself, the board itself, probably close to a year.
Okay.
The little miniature soldiers in all over the course of 7, 8 years.
Wow. And how did it get, one of my favorite details, how it got here. How did you get this thing?
Oh, boy.
Because you built it in California, right?
Built it in Laguna Beach, California, where I have a residence, and that was quite a task. Found a moving company. They couldn't believe I was going to do this, and they brought 7 people out to take this diorama and get it into a van, into a vehicle, and it was transported across the country. And then
it's amazing. Yeah. It's amazing. And there's more than 1,000 individual soldiers.
About 1,300, close to 1,300.
That's just incredible. Yeah, I think this kind of thing really just helps you think about the battle, in a really incredible new, way. You can stand and see it from different perspectives, literally from like a bird's eye view of the area, but it's just unbelievable. Thank you so much, Cliff, for allowing us to display it here. We're thrilled to have it.
Thank you. I enjoyed it.
So a lot of people have asked me exactly what is being portrayed here in the diorama. You probably know that on the second day of the battle, the Southern Army attacked both ends of the Union line. While the main attack was taking place against Big and Little Round Top and the wheat field and the peach orchard, a diversion was to be created against Culp's Hill. But if the opportunity presented itself, they were to convert it into an all-out assault. So what ended up happening was about 6 o'clock in the evening, the Southern Army attacked Culp's Hill. And there was heavy fighting on the Culp's Hill in the evening of July 2nd. On July 3rd, early morning hours, the Union Army shifted reinforcements into position on Culp's Hill, and the Southerners shifted reinforcements into the position. And on the morning of July 3rd, the battle erupted again on Culp's Hill with just unprecedented fury. Probably the longest sustained fighting of the entire battle took place on the slopes of Culp's Hill during the early morning, late morning hours of July 3rd. And this diorama actually shows the Union position atop Culp's Hill and the Southern troops attacking up the slopes of the hill. The Union Army had built a breastwork or an entrenchment across the side of the hill. And this area that the diorama portrays today would be where the monument to the 150th New York or the Maryland Eastern Shore Regiment occupies. And we're looking at the point where the breastworks actually turn. And what's interesting about this is General George Sears Green, who was in charge of some of the troops that were involved in the fighting here, actually had his men construct the entrenchments to work to the contours of the hill. And in this particular area, the Southerners were charging up into this bowl-shaped depression, and troops were firing into them from their flank and ahead of them. And what General Greene did was set up crossing fields of fire. And the fire from the Union troops was devastating on the morning of July 3rd. And also, as a result of this fighting, there was heavy damage done to the trees on the slopes of the hill. And for years afterwards, photographs were taken of these trees with the battle damage and the scars of battle visible on them.